Hey guys, Captain Mike here. I started filming this video series for all the things I do to prep this 60-foot boat to go from Southwest Florida up to Nantucket. Um, and I was going to do it all in one video, but it was getting a little bit complicated or a lot of information kind of going in there. So I'm going to break it up into two videos. So video one was all the things I physically do to get the boat ready on the exterior and down in the engine room. So that way the boat is mechanically sound and ready for our summer season to get both up to New England and back. And then in this video, I'm going to go over all of the stuff I do on the inside of the boat, both provisioning and safety equipment wise for getting ready for that trip and just regular operation of the boat in general. So in this video, we're going to cover stuff in my ditch bag, safety equipment, and first aid kit, plus some items that I do for provisioning on the inside of the boat, not only for the delivery, but ahead of our summer season as well. So that I'm going to cover in this video. If there's anything that you guys have seen in the yachting industry, if you're a fellow yachty and you've seen something done differently or something that you think I should do that I'm not doing, feel free to drop that down in the comments. I always love learning more stuff or getting insight as to what other people do, because I am only able to go off of what I know and what I've experienced. So always like learning something new. Or if there's any questions you guys have, drop those in the comments as well, and I'll answer those in future videos. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy the video. So one of the first things that you want to go through before a boat trip or a delivery or anything like that is safety equipment. The first of which for this is our ditch bag. As the name kind of leads to, is this is what you get if you need to ditch the boat, or if you're just kind of dead in the water, engines die, generators die, batteries die, and you need to hail assistance where you can. A few other things will get added into this before I actually push off the dock, and I'll go over that after. But the first item in here, as I'm pulling out, air horn. I don't like leaving it in the cardboard wrapper that it comes into, because the cardboard can get all like damp and soggy sometimes if you get a lot of humidity, or if the bag doesn't really get wet. But cardboard's also attracts bugs and stuff sometimes. So take it out. I leave it separated because if something hits the button on here, one, scare the crap out of you. If it goes off randomly in the boat, if something fell on top of the bag, and two, it could leak the air out of the canister. Other big thing here, the main reason for the ditch bag, is our flares. There's three types of flares in this bag. These are all more coastal stuff because we really don't end up more than 20 or 30 miles offshore with this particular boat on our deliveries. But first is our orange smoke flare here. I guess it's not flare, just orange smoke. But this is a daytime only signal. Lets out, as you'd imagine, big plume of orange smoke. Hard to see at night, easier to see during the day. Makes for a bigger target if you're trying to be identified by another boat or aircraft passing through to signal them to where you are or that you're in distress. Second one is this is a red handheld flare, and again, pretty self-explanatory. Both the smoke and this, you pop this black cap off, and then there's a little another cap that pops off. You strike the cap over the end of the flare. That's what ignites it. For two reasons, not to set them off in the boat, is one, no one's going to see you, and two, you get some, not sparks, but like embers that come off of this and the smoke out of that. So obviously you want to be outside for that. And definitely want to be outside for this one. These are the parachute flares, the little pistol to shoot them off with. These are all pretty standard stuff. These all have their written expiration dates on them. These are all 2028, so we still got 2 more seasons with these. Just replaced them a year or two ago. But you want to make sure that they're in date. I personally will keep, maybe not in the ditch bag, but on board, some recently expired flares, because they likely will still work, but want to make sure you have the new stuff if you ever get in a situation where you need it, because this stuff will work. I don't really care if they're expired. If they work and we go through these for some reason and we're not located or saved, I have no problem setting off some old flares. Plus, then you don't throw them away and deal with all that, because there's a process to that to be able to hand them in. So the next item here in the bag is this is a distress signal flag, big orange flag with a black square and a black circle on it. Just so I don't have to fold it up, I'm not going to set this, unwrap that. So you can imagine, big flag hanging on the outside. It's a distress signal. Inside the bag, the last thing in here right now, got about a half dozen of these waters. In the life raft, there are actual like emergency ration waters. Life raft's up on the back deck, or top deck rather, and that has stuff packed in it from the manufacturer, as well as some other safety equipment. I can go over life raft stuff in another video, but we have one of those up there. This is one, kind of redundant. Two, in case we don't end up in the life raft, if we had to, we can hop in the tender and have all this stuff there as well. There's also a few glow sticks. I have these kind of scattered in a few different spots around the boat, just in some stock. Obviously, if the lights were all off, we have flashlights scattered around the boats that are all charged, but these require no batteries. They'll work in the water if you need them to. This is an emergency, it's all, I guess, technically emergency stuff, but this is got a little film on it, but this is a little signaling mirror with a little lanyard on there. It ain't gonna be shiny until you take that off, but have that. And then these are just like two little Amazon BS items, but just a little whistle through there. I have one of the plastic whistles, always end up being kind of gross. If they sit for a really long time, that works just as good, and it's aluminum. Has less chambers to be gross in. And truth be told, I don't know why this is in there. Little compass. If this is a thing that saves my life, awesome, but I don't think it will. And then on the side here is a dedicated pocket for your EPIRB, which is an emergency beacon that sends out a signal. Coast Guard will be able to interpret that signal. It sends out your location and specs for the boat that it's registered to. We have two EPIRBs on this boat. One is in, I forget if it's a Class A or Class 1 canister, but it's got a hydrostatic release, so it will release automatically. If the boat gets submerged, it gets released by water pressure, not just by getting wet. If you're released by getting wet, it'd be a problem because it's up on the hardtop. It gets rained on all the time. But I think it's 1 bar, which is 14 psi, 14.5 psi of pressure. So that's about 10 feet underwater or so, 10 or 20 feet down. So if the boat sinks, that'll release it automatically. And then physically up at the helm, I have a mounted EPIRB right next to me. So if we're ever going to be making a distress call, I would grab that EPIRB myself, manually, and carry that down here to grab the bag. In that same process, also putting life jackets on and all that. Just as important as having this equipment is, one, knowing how to use it, and two, being able to access it. Obviously, you want to have, in an emergency situation, one of the first things you want to do is get your life jacket on, because while you're dealing with everything else, you don't want to end up forgetting your life jacket, end up in the water or the tender or something like that, and leave your equipment behind. That being said, in addition to this ditch bag, I kind of have stuff like a squirrel kind of stashed in different spots around the boat. One of the big things is in the tender, I have sets of life jackets in there as well. So if we went right to there, there's life jackets in the tender ready to go. There's for the delivery, not on a daily basis, but I have a few water bottles in the tender and all that stuff as well. So if I ignore this bag, I will have access to that. There's also expired flares in the tender because I don't need it to operate the tender on a regular basis. But if we were to go straight to there, it's a few less things to grab, and then I don't have to worry about things being hot and humid inside the compartment there and ruining good flares that I'm relying on. So items that weren't in this ditch bag that are very valuable to have, and I do add them in after the fact, not after we need them, but I don't leave them in there on a regular basis. For our regular operation are some sunscreen, and then the after sun stuff. Nothing emergency or specific about it, just sunscreen we have on board. I don't carry aerosol cans doing that because if you ended up in the tender or life raft or whatever, not that they're going to rot out in a day or two and hopefully get picked up in less time than that, but if you're in a bad situation, you want to plan that you're going to be in a bad situation for a little while. So this goes a little bit longer for usage and easier to use. You don't have to worry about the can losing pressure or being punctured or something like that. In addition to safety equipment and water and all that stuff, I also put the copy of the documentation in here, so that way we don't have to go through paper records or anything and digitally to identify the boat or anything after the fact. Put a little bit of cash in here. Again, if you end up offshore somewhere, usually have your wallet on you and whatnot on a regular basis, but I leave mine at the helm when I'm going. So if I'm running from there to go deal with something else and I don't grab my wallet and I grab this, at least we have a little bit of cash. Won't say how much cash is in there, but won't be able to buy a car with it, but you could definitely buy a plane ticket or a rental car or at least a few meals or a hotel or something with it if you end up ashore and this was the only thing you're able to grab. And then, just insurance paperwork and documentation registration for the boat. Next to this bag is my personal ditch bag, which has a little bit of other cash in it. I keep a credit card in there, photocopy of my license. This trip that we're going, I won't have my passport with me, but I do keep my captain's license in there as well. So if I'm grabbing this, I'm grabbing that. The other one's in a backpack form. So they'll be next to each other for the delivery. And then the last major safety item that isn't in this bag right now, and that's because it's on the charger, is a handheld VHF. They do make specific ditch bag emergency style VHFs that float and have certain battery life and whatnot, and they don't have to be serviced as often. They're very expensive, and quite frankly, the battery life on that VHF will last most of the time that we need it to, in an emergency situation. And like I said, some redundancies, things stashed everywhere. The tender has a handheld VHF in it as well, and a charging cord to be able to charge it if we end up in the tender. And given that we're never really more than 20 or 30 miles offshore, maybe 40 miles when we're going from Florida to South Carolina off the Georgia coast, I can get back to shore with the tender in calm enough seas in like 1 to 2 hours. So if we're really flooring it. So ideally, if anything happens to this boat, we're getting in that boat and dealing with it from there until this boat is no more, or until someone else comes to help us, or we just opt to get to shore. So, and then, so that's the ditch bag. Kind of self-explanatory, but very, very valuable stuff here. So other than the ditch bag, you definitely want to be prepared for other emergencies, and that kind of leads you into a first aid kit. I have a few other smaller first aid kits scattered around the boat, but this is our big one, so to speak. This is from a company called mymedic.com. Not sponsored by them, obviously new channel, but definitely not sponsored by these guys. There's a lot of maritime supply companies and yachting supply companies that have safety divisions that supply stuff like this. I have found a lot of those kits are very overkill for what we need. Said we're a coastal cruising boat. Most of our usage is within a stone's throw of shore, swimming distance of shore, or very often within sight of shore, and on very calm days, mostly during daylight hours, mostly around other boats. So most of our medical equipment or medical needs would be handled by first responders, dial 911, call the Coast Guard, whatever, and get someone off the boat, or just getting back to the dock and getting them into an ambulance. So a lot of our safety and first aid stuff is more so tied to, boo-boos and burns and scrapes and stuff like that. I have regular Band-Aids and stuff in cabinets down below, Neosporin, yada, yada. That being said, you don't plan for what you think is going to happen. You plan for what could possibly happen, and that's where this comes in. I really like this first aid kit here. It's very comprehensive. I'll go through a few of the things here. This has, I won't go through everything that's in the bag because there's hundreds of items in this bag. This was the smallest kit that my medic had that had a tourniquet in it. And that's, in my mind, is probably about the most extreme thing that we would need to go through. But this has everything from, emergency gauze and, routine bandages, scissors. It has little toolkits that go with any of the more technical items in here. And the other thing I really like about this is everything is very well labeled. And they have how-to videos on how to use any of these things. So if when you get it, you have questions about how things need to be used, that's all in there. So they have a little QR code to scan, has all the information tied to the kit that you have. And as you expect, there's gloves, mask, all that stuff that you would expect out of a regular first aid kit. I've got our tourniquet here. There's also the quick clot and some stuff that's a little bit more advanced than just regular, band-aids and scrapes and stuff, in case you need it, or in case you come across someone else that's in need of it out on the water. But my favorite part of this is just how comprehensive this kit is. And there's ice packs in here. There's eye wash stations. There's gauze. There's wraps. I think there's even some paracord in here for doing splints and whatnot. CPR masks, pretty much everything you think about. And actually, I will say, for every first aid kit, first aid course that I've gone through, I've always wondered, because they always mention it, like you're going to have one of those, those airway masks or the breathing masks, just in your wallet or ready to go. And they usually give you one to take, and it's like everything else. If you put like a business card in your wallet, it gets destroyed. I don't carry a purse with me. I don't have things that I carry with me on a regular basis. So I very rarely have one of those CPR masks or, the separators, on my person at all times. So it's nice that this has those included in here, in case you ever have to do CPR, especially, on a stranger or something like that. This and the ditch bag and life jackets and fire extinguishers are all things that you don't want to ever have to use, but you sure as hell want to have it if you ever do need to use it. So I found that this kit is very compact, very dense with everything that it has in it. It's got a ton of options in it. Like I said, this was the smallest kit that this site had, that had a tourniquet in it, which is about as extreme as I wanted to get for our personal needs. I am contemplating in the future getting an AED to carry on the boat, but I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet. That's just been more of a thought for the future. I might do it later this year. But a lot of companies will supply safety equipment like this that are very well labeled, very easy to use, color coded, maybe even a little bit bigger bag and easier to get into than this. But the maritime ones, that are just as easy to use as this, and just as well as stocked as this. I think this bag was about $300 or $400. The boat specific ones or yachting specific ones are probably twice that price for stuff that has as many selections as this bag has. They just might have, if I have 2 sets of gloves, they may have 4 sets of gloves, and so on and so forth. And they might double the band-aids and maybe a few other size band-aids, but this does everything you'd want it to do. The price was reasonable. Everything's really well dated, and anything that needs to be updated in this bag, I can go onto their website, get a refresher for whatever kits in here that I need that expire. All of the ointments and treatments and stuff in here for like burn cream and all that stuff. In addition, they're all in like wipe form too, which makes it super easy. So you don't have to like give it to them to apply. You can give it a wipe like a wet wipe, like you clean your hands off after having some chicken wings. You can apply to a burn, or and then they have stuff for like bug bites, anti-itch things. So it's a very good kit. It's a very good price, and you don't pay the boat price, the yacht price, so to speak, for this kit. They have bigger ones, they have small ones. I like this one so much that shortly after I received it and went through it, I personally bought one to carry in my truck with me. And whenever this thing needs to be either updated or possibly just replaced, which is probably a little way down the road. I've only had this for 2 years now and everything's still well within date. I will, call and get my, new ibuprofen and, all that expired items later this year. We will go right through the MyMedic website, get that replaced with them, and then they'll send them in the same kind of pouches that are stored in here. Take the old ones out, put the new ones in. Super easy. So I like how simple and kind of compartmentalized that is. So without overpaying for it. So, and then they have all these little, Molly panels and stuff too. So they have auxiliary kits, or like kind of supplemental kits that they also sell that you can buy and add into this that's specific to your needs. Overall, I think these are awesome kits in case, for anyone that's going, hiking, four-wheeling, road tripping, yachting, if going off to more exotic destinations, it's nice to have more items with you. They make much bigger bags than this, this is like a little tiny backpack. They make full-size backpacks. So I was very happy with this. And I think this rounds out very well our safety equipment on board. Like I said, just with the ditch bag and how a lot of the equipment that's in there that's not entirely specialized, things like water and sunscreen and whatnot. I have other little safety items that are in that ditch bag in redundant places on the boat. Stuff up at the helm, stuff in the tender. Every bathroom downstairs and bedroom has some form of a mini first aid kit. So this very rarely gets tapped into, because the last thing I want to do is say, hey, I have 100 Band-Aids in here and we use 10 this year. I was like, oh, I have 90. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, we just keep grabbing the Band-Aids that are the right size out of here. And then when you want to go need them, they'll be out. This is more so if anything major happens, and then we'll treat it after that for, normal little scratches and whatnot. Keep some Band-Aids downstairs, some Neosporin, and some, some sanitizing wipes and stuff. And that does most of our day-to-day first aid. So, and then this is in case you need it. So yeah, that's our first aid kit. Another one of the things I do before delivery. Obviously, we have plenty of life jackets on board, and they're kind of stowed away. With them being stowed away, I like to have life jackets easily accessible for the delivery. And easiest way to do that is get them out ahead of time. That way I don't have to pull this cover off and deal with any of this if, God forbid, we do need those life jackets. And I also like to keep out the inflatable type because they're a little bit easier to deal with. I guess life is all about risk assessment and kind of weighing all your options. And if it really comes down to it, we're going to be pretty coastal, running during daylight hours in well-traveled areas. If the weather gets really bad, we probably won't be out there. Obviously, we can get caught in bad weather. No one plans to be out in bad weather, but we run short enough days and we run fast enough that we can outrun most of the weather that might pop up in a day. Also, usually, not always, but usually you get those cells that kind of pop up later in the afternoon when the water temperature is getting hotter and a lot of evaporation that brings in those thunderstorms. And the perk of cruising a little bit on the faster side and getting an early start to the day is we can usually be in before all that happens. So weighing all those factors in, I don't mind only having access to my inflatable life jackets. In a pinch, if it gets really bad, we'll end up in the life raft, which is stored up on the back deck. But if there's a more slower emergency or weather-related emergency, I'm going to break our tender free, which has its own set of life jackets on board as well, the physical life jackets, and I have the physical life jackets available down in the cabin if we need it. But if you're grabbing life jackets really quickly, you're not really worried about how far you have to go to get it. You want to spend as little time in the water as possible. I like to leave 2 of these inflatable vests down here in the salon. And because we have extras, and I'm only running with 2 crew members, in case I didn't say that earlier in the video. I take my dad on these deliveries. We have a pretty good time doing it. And I leave 2 of these up at the helm. Set these here for now. This isn't the helm, but I'll bring them when I go upstairs. So these life jackets have a little clear window in them. Inside this window is a little green window. Kind of hard to see in the video with the reflection, but right over here is a little indicator window. There's a little green tab back there. When you buy these life jackets, a lot of times the air canisters aren't installed all the way or not at all. So that window will be red until you install the canister. And then if you've had them for a while, they could possibly leak out, or God forbid, they were discharged by mistake, although you would know that. These are all Velcro, so this thing would be all blown up like a balloon. So it's easy to tell if they were discharged by pulling on this release here, the manual release. So you want to just check, make sure that those are green. So that way you know that this is charged, armed, and ready to go in the event of emergency. I did check all 4 of these vests. All 4 of them are green. These are newer vests, are only 2 or 3 years old. If they are discharged, truth be told, I don't know if you can reuse them after the fact, but in this industry, if they were used, I would feel more comfortable having new ones anyway, and I would just use that as an excuse to buy new ones. But if you don't have them discharged and your jackets are in pretty good condition, and they just leaked out or the canister is put in wrong, you can just buy new CO2 cartridges to install and call it a day. Save a few bucks, because these things are expensive. They're like 80 or 90 bucks a piece, so maybe even more for some of the offshore ones. But because we don't run that far offshore, we just run with the coastal ones because we're coastal. Other than the mechanical and safety items on board to prepare for the delivery, some of the housekeeping stuff that I do exterior wise, I like to, if you ever hear me say we, I'm referring to the boat and myself, because when I leave here in June, it's just me and the boat, more or less. So it's a weird thing that I do, but I've done it for a while and I don't know why I do it. But anyway, one of the things that we do to prepare for a trip north, other than the mechanical side and whatnot, is the housekeeping side. Not just the inside, but the outside. The same way that a clean engine room is a good diagnostic tool, I think starting the delivery with the boat cleaned and, you know, not fully like waxed and detailed and all that stuff right before we leave, but having a good wash down done, get the teak done. The stainless is polished and coated. The windows are polished and coated. The whole boat was polished and coated back in December, but my guy that does the paint work is phenomenal, and you wouldn't know that it wasn't done last week, and it'll still look good at the end of summer. We apply a silica sealant over the paint every other wash down. So right before we leave, we do a good full wash down and apply that sealant over it. Makes it really easy to keep the boat clean on the delivery. I don't like things being dirty. Part of the yachting industry is having everything being 100%. You know, people are paying good money. The owners pay very good money to keep this boat in good shape. They expect it. I expect that of anyone in the industry, but I definitely expect it of myself. And even though the owners won't be involved with the delivery or see the boat until after I've had plenty of time to clean it on the side up north, always like to have that mindset that if we pull into Charleston or Beaufort or Oriental, wherever we pull into, if the owners were going to get on board that day, the only thing that I want messy is whatever was salty from the delivery from that day. That's when we're pulling up to the dock. That's, you know, not leaving tools and parts and stuff out. So keeping everything tidied up. But having a clean boat to start with is key. It's easier to keep a boat clean than to make the boat clean afterwards. I like to, because we are a smaller crew on a delivery, and that I do mean we, because I do bring a crew member on for the run. Since it's just me and one other person, it's not a big boat, but it does take a solid hour or two to give it a full wash down. If you're trying to get through it pretty quickly, it's 2 to 4 hours with 2 people doing a pretty thorough wash down. But so to keep it easier on myself and my dad, who I take on the delivery with me, I like to spot clean a different part of the boat each day, so that way every 2 or 3 days, it's kind of like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. By the time you're done washing the stainless and getting that all down, the next day we pull in, wash the top sides. The third day we pull in, I give the hull a little bit of a scrub, especially if we're docking on different sides each day. And then once you've done that, it's been 2 or 3 days since you've actually taken soap to the windows or the stainless. So you start that again. So nothing really gets the opportunity to get too dirty or too salty or streaky or anything like that. And that RO unit, that spot-free rinse unit that's back in the lazarette, while I do like to chamois the windows and the stainless after giving everything a good rinse, even with that, that helps a lot without little impurities and dissolved impurities in city water wherever we're going to end up on the boat, dried to the boat, and then be one more thing we have to wash off on the way once we're up north. So starting with the boat clean helps a lot. Makes it easier to clean it when we get up there. And when we do get up there, the owners are, in fact, there or will be there pretty shortly thereafter. So it's one less thing to worry about if you keep up on it. Literal housekeeping, same thing on the inside. Keep the boat clean and organized on the inside. And it's easier to keep it clean than it is to make it clean. So keep the floors mopped every few days, and especially if you get bad weather and you get stuck somewhere for the day, catch up on some extra cleaning. But you don't have nearly as much stuff to do if you start with the boat cleaned and ready to go. I think right now, if the owners were going to get on for a trip today, I have to pull the covers off on the outside of the boat, put the chairs back outside, and put like 1 or 2 little tote bags and stuff away. So keeps my life a little less stressful on a delivery like that. And it's just one less thing to worry about. The same way I do with spare parts, I do with some of our interior items. Some stuff is hard to source on Nantucket or in the Northeast in general, where we are between the Cape and Nantucket. So to make my life a little bit easier, I try to source as much stuff as I can here in Florida. That serves 2 purposes. One, I have it. I know I have it. I get what I want. It gives me plenty of time to find what I want if something's out of stock. And 2, you can usually get it for a better price down here. And when I'm talking about that, I'm mostly talking about bulk items of stuff that I know won't go bad immediately and that we will eventually go through, if not this summer, next winter. It's going to sound foolish, but I buy a lot of tequila before we leave. The owners like a good añejo. Easier to find the brands that we like here, and we can spend $60 or $70 on a bottle here versus 100, 120 plus up there if we can find one of the brands that we like to go for. So It's not a big thing, but if I could save 30 or 40-ish dollars a bottle for tequila, not that we're going through a bottle a day, but I can save a few $100 stocking up on the tequila down here, going to Total Wine or ABC or something, and getting it for a better price than have to source it up there. And the same thing for that, things like sodas, waters, Ziploc bags, coffee pods. I can buy things for either a better price or in bulk for a much better price down here in Florida than I can up there. I know we're going to go through it if we're going to use it by the end of the year, so I just spend the little extra money provisioning down here for that stuff, and then it's on the boat. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to Uber or bike to the store to go get something stupid that I could just throw in the back of my truck here and bring down in the dock cart. Much easier. Another thing, for Nantucket, they banned single-use plastics. So, for me, call me an enemy of the environment if you want to. I like these. I like a plastic bottle when I'm drinking water quickly. I'd rather grab one of these. And I love these little bottles because in my whole yachting career, not just on this boat, but in my whole yachting career, most people, not even yachting career, let's be real, most people grabbing a water are throwing away, you grab a 16-ounce bottle of water, you're throwing away 6 or 8 ounces of that water if you're not finishing it or chugging that whole thing, or you're forgetting which bottle of water is yours. I do that a lot if I have a bottle of water like that, which is another reason why I try to use my hydro flask or something like that. So for anyone who thinks I'm an enemy of the environment, Nantucket bans single-use plastics, so you can't get these on island, and I'm okay with that. The alternative are these like plastic, or not plastic, like the boxed waters and stuff like that, or in the aluminum cans and stuff. And obviously all that's still recyclable, and you can recycle plastics out there, but you can't buy them out there for water bottles. You can get like Gatorade and stuff like that, sports drinks and stuff they'll have in plastic bottles more sparingly, mostly at the grocery stores these days, but these are harder to find. And I would rather a customer, client, whoever, passenger, guest, whatever you want to call them for whatever they mean to you, I'd rather have them drink 2 of these than half of a 16-ounce and waste it and throw it away. So these are easier to find. They're everywhere in Florida. I can go to Costco or Sam's Club and buy cases of these, which if we don't go through them before we get them back south, use them in the winter. So they're always on board. And again, if you think I'm an enemy of the environment, probably not the best friend of the environment sometimes, but I drink out of this and I fill it up with a 1 or 2 gallon jug. Still using some plastic, but it's a little bit better. So that's mostly for the guests. And in addition to the water bottles, you can't get K-Cup pods out there, and we don't go through a ton of those. But if you run out, you can't get them. And the one downside of the Keurig is if you don't have a K-Cup, you basically just have a hot water machine. So make sure that we have enough of those pods and stuff before we leave. Realistically, we probably only go through maybe a dozen or so, 2 dozen of those all summer, maybe 3 dozen all year, realistically. I don't personally drink coffee. My dad, who does the delivery for me, doesn't drink coffee. So the captain before me with these guys, he did drink coffee. So I'm sure he was keeping much more of that stuff on board. Owner will have a coffee from time to time when he's on the boat. Actually, no, doesn't matter. But he does have coffee, which is why we have that in the first place. But yeah, keep plenty of pods on the boat. They do expire, but the amount that we buy, we'll go through them before they expire. So, yeah. And then other than consumable things, cleaning products, stuff like that, plenty of that. The bulk stuff, I carry gallon jugs of vinegar. If I need bleach for anything like that, we have bleach down below, isopropyl alcohol. There is, when we are in Nantucket, there is a grocery store right downtown that I can walk to. If you've ever been to the island, the grocery store downtown is good enough, but it's not the best selection. They don't have everything, and they don't necessarily have, they're very often out of stock on stuff. And it's not like being on the mainland where if it's out of stock today, it'll probably be in tomorrow. It'll probably still be out of stock the next day or the day after, especially if it's an obscure item like isopropyl alcohol that I use to clean the interior with. So, yeah, that is most of my interior stuff. I'm sure there's probably a half dozen other things I'm forgetting, but easy things like paper towels and Ziploc bags and stuff like that have enough extra, so if I run out in the cabinet, I have some behind me. But the delivery specific stuff and the Nantucket specific stuff are really just the stuff I'm talking about right now. So if there's any crew that have any other items that they like to have for deliveries, or anyone that knows Nantucket that knows something that they like to bring out there, let me know in the comments. I'm always intrigued. On larger yachts with multiple crew members, you'll have a chef on board making delivery food and all that stuff. So they're doing, the chef and the stews are doing a lot of the provisioning for food in the interior. So simpletons like me who just drive boats don't have to worry about if there's enough water on board or if there's enough snacks and all that stuff. But I unfortunately am my own engineer. I am my own stew. I am my own chef. At least once we get north for the season. So I'm a one-man show on this boat. So anything that I want on this boat, I better have already. So, hey guys, thanks for watching the video. I'm getting ready to leave on the first leg of this delivery from Fort Myers up to Cape Canaveral tomorrow. So stay tuned for more on the water and underway content. Until then, if you have any ideas for future videos or any questions, drop them down in the comments. Until then, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos.